Hello and welcome, everybody. I'm the Restless Kaiser, and as we work our way around,
Nick.
I'm next. Hi, I'm Nick.
I'm Lorcan.
I'm James Workshop.
I'm Johnny B. Oh, all do that.
I'm Dwane.
I'm Mira Manga.
Hey.
Hey.
And I'm Johnny B, like I said a moment ago when Discourse said. And together we are
Morley.
Okay, 4 people just about worked, 8 people not a chance. Oh well.
Indeed.
We'll make it work.
One
All
day.
right. Evening, everybody. So tonight we had Luna Waff has become a YouTube member. So thank you, Luna.
Thank you.
Bad Internet Friends podcast, which is Axe on Axe rebranded. He never makes the live show because he's got some kind of family commitment. Tom's Workshop's actually going to make it this time. Lorcan Nagel says, hello, nerds. JR732, evening all. Mark Hall reckons he's not a nerd. You might be in the wrong place then, mate. I'm not sure. Nerds are smart. All right, fair. Tony Holton is here.
Tony's amazing. He gave me this at Games Expo. It's a Lego unicorn.
It's a Lego unicorn. Excellent.
Proxy for Bricks Krieg.
Yeah, indeed. And together we are. Yes, indeed. I assume that's what we were going to get. All right. I think probably everyone here knows who everyone is, but we're going to go around. I'll put them on the big screen and they're going to introduce themselves one at a time. So here we go. That's you, Nick.
Oh, hi. I am Nick. I run a YouTube channel called Grey Primer. I mostly make dioramas that are inspired by novels and my favorite movies. And you can also find me on Instagram under Nick from Grey Primer.
Lorcan.
Hi, my name's Lorcan Nagel. I am a member of the Catalyst demo team doing stuff for Battletech and Leviathans. I also write for Battletech.
Discourse.
Oh, I'm Discourse. I'm the YouTuber you love to hate. I cover miniature war games on Discourse Minis, and I cover RPG news on Dungeons and Discourse.
Dwane.
I'm Dwane from YouTube Plastic Craic Gaming. I occasionally release videos about Battletech, and I'm a demo agent for Catalyst.
And
Hello,
Mira
everyone.
Manga.
I'm Mira Manga, your favorite grimdark unicorn. But what that means is I interview Black library authors on my YouTube channel. I'm also a volunteer for Game Therapy UK charity, which I urge everybody to look up and support. And I am editing a new game called Trench Crusade.
Oh.
She definitely is, and it seems like every event I've been to, I've met someone who's been telling me I need to be playing Trench Crusade. It was Mira at Comic-Con, and then it was Discourse was waxing lyrical about it at the UK Games Expo. But did actually email them yesterday saying, can you send us some free stuff to review? Because everyone seems to be talking about your game.
It's all out there. Just play it. You love it.
You have to pay for the
You can
minis.
proxy. You can proxy anything into it.
You've got minis.
No, I'm not World War One minis.
Yeah, you do.
That's much too recent.
I've got 15 mil World War One minis. I don't think that would work very well.
The rules are
I thought
fine.
you were gonna say like I don't have any angels or like big massive devils. It's like no World War One. I've got no guys in trench coats. What's up with that? It's impossible to play.
All right. So what the plan is tonight? There's a lot of people here. We were all in some capacity and in different capacities. We were at the UK Games Expo, and so for you folks at home that maybe didn't get to go or want to know about it, we're just having like a post-show chat. Each person talking about their experiences, because obviously, as well as all the guests, James and John also went, and John went in a slightly different capacity to me and James. So there's all different things going on there. So I'll make a start before I pass it around. We went for the Thursday and the Friday, James and I. So we just stayed the one night because I'm a total cheapskate where the channel is concerned, to minimize accommodation costs. And James told me he was a heavy snorer to try and make sure that I didn't try and spoon up with him that night, and I got in his own room. I'm
I just
also
wanted you to keep me awake all night. That was all it was.
yeah. So the Thursday night there was a press event which turned out to be really useful for us because it was a much smaller version of it with like 150 guys rather than 500. But more importantly, everyone there wanted to talk to the press. So that meant we looked at that and thought, these are the things we're interested in. And we lined up the interviews for the next day, which was really good. So I had 5 products that we saw that we did interviews of. One of which was the dungeon tile guys. They were like EPVC dungeon tiles. I've got resin dungeon tiles and they weigh a ton. And I almost never get them out because of it. And you're always cannibalizing the dungeon from the back as you move forwards because you don't have enough pieces. These were just tiles. So and there were 3 sheets of them. You could fill your kitchen table with them just about. But I forget what the company was called. James, you remember?
Pass.
Yeah.
Next question. I can find out. Give me a minute.
Number 2 was a board game called Trouble on the Tempest. That was really interesting board game about repairing a spaceship. It had notes of FTL, the video game, although the designer said he'd never played FTL. I was like, this is FTL, the board game right there. But it had a really interesting mechanic in the form of its time travel. The way that worked, it allowed you to reset the board with the knowledge of what was coming, which I thought was quite interesting. There was one snag, which was at the end of it. He said, I created this game because we really loved Pandemic. And I was like, I fucking hate Pandemic. But he said that during the interview. I just kept that to myself until afterwards. If you want to know why I hate Pandemic, by the way, it's because as a player, you don't get to play it. It's a committee game. And there's usually one. James, I think you said the person who brings the game to the club is the one that tells everyone what to do. So there's just no player agency.
Surely, if everybody knows the game, though, they can like actually play it and make their own decisions.
Yeah, but I think you don't get to make your own decisions. You have to make the best decisions in the interest of the group.
I've seen a lot of game designers who do
games
talk about how to try and negate those kind of things, like to stop it from being the loudest or the most experienced player dominates the game. How to make sure everyone still has a little bit of agency.
In Pandemic, you'll just lose if you don't do what the most experienced player tells you what to do. The game seems to be designed well. Anyway, number 2, The Last of Us. I think that's what it was called. The Last War. No, The Last of Us, the TV show.
War. Yeah.
Last War. That's the World War One, and not Trench Crusade. Yeah. The Last War, World War One in the trenches with zombies and maggots and so forth. Looks really good. I've ordered us a couple of box sets of it, James, by the way. They're on their way from War Games Atlantic.
Yeah.
And he had a lovely display in a Soviet ammo crate. He'd built this trench diorama out of like foam that he'd caught in an ammo box, which I thought was pretty cool.
That's based on the Forbidden Psalm sort of
same guys.
And
system, basically. Yeah, different settings, same rules.
I can get a good camera on it. Lovely art.
And there's a nice style, and those kind of pen and ink drawings are a bit reminiscent of original D&D to me, the original AD&D monster manual and stuff.
World War One, so hot right now.
Everyone's got a horror story set in World War One, right?
And Weird Designs, by the way, is the team behind that. WIRD, Weird Designs.
Yeah. Top of the list for me, and I think was the absolute steal of the show, was Plastic Craic, which was World War II 15mm Lego. I saw it and I was like, I need this in my life. So this is what I wanted my Lego set to do for me when I was a kid. So that was my experience of the expo. And James's was quite similar, I guess, but maybe he's got more to add. So that was me. So I'm going to go around and invite other people. So shall we start with... We'll start with, I think, Discourse, because she can't be quiet for long anyway. So, Discourse, why don't you tell us what you got up to and what you kind of highlight of the show?
Well, I was there for the full weekend. I'm a bit like I'm a cheapskate as well, Kaiser, like you. But I went on the Friday, Saturday, Sunday rather than the Thursday because I figured I fucking love like wandering around the convention and seeing all the stands. I'm also a really bad like content creator, so I didn't like plan any content. I was like, I'm just gonna wander around and see what catches my eye. So it's kind of good and bad because by Sunday I was like, oh my God, I've got no time. I need to demo more games. I played a ton of games. I spent hours playing just a huge variety of games. Modifius have a new game coming out called Hardware. It's like a 6mm mech game. I'm not the biggest fan of mechs, but I did enjoy it. I thought it was pretty fun. I know that's coming to Kickstarter soon. I think Plastic Craic was a real highlight, like you mentioned. I've got a so this is, for those who don't know, it's a tank. I got it. I bagged a free 10. This was a bribe, people. So this is how the miniatures come. This is a miniature war game. So this makes a tank here. It's very interesting. It's a Lego, or as they like to call it, the building brick hobby. And it's essentially a war game where you take Lego pieces and you do battle, which to me felt like a very kind of kid-friendly premise, right? Because you could get together with your kids and play Lego, but it said World War II. It's like one person has to play the Nazis. So I was a bit unsure about that one. I figured maybe fantasy or something could have been a bit more, would have been a bit of an easier sale for a lot of people. But I'm excited to see that. I never got to play a demo of that game, so maybe we'll talk about that later, Kaiser. Maybe you can tell us what the gameplay is like. There was a couple little hidden gems at the place. One of them was a game called Void's Guard. I saw because recently I've been getting into tiny miniatures. I've been getting into 10mm miniatures, like little tiny men, smaller than 28mm, and I've been kind of enjoying it. I've never played them before, but I've been playing a lot of Armored Clash, which is 10mm. And at the convention, I saw this little stall hidden away, and I found it. It was called Void's Guard Company. They have this game called From Ashes, and the miniatures are not 10mm. They're not 28mm. They're 18mm. So they're just in between the two of them. So they're still tiny men. They're much smaller than 28mm. They're way smaller, but they're much bigger than 10mm, meaning that you kind of have this really interesting mix of the miniatures have got detail and you can paint the detail. Like they're not so small that you just do blotches of color and that's all you can see. They're big enough that they can catch all the details so you can paint them, but they're still small enough that you can have like mass battles in. Now, the game itself is a sci-fi kind of political kind of game with all these different human factions all warring over like a civil war, kind of set at the end of a solar empire that humanity had, but the communications got knocked out and now all the different planets are kind of at war with one another. And it looked really, really interesting to me. I'd never heard of it before. I think it's a little bit of a sleeper hit right now. It's a D12 based system, which is very unusual, but I think people are getting used to playing games that aren't D6s. It's been just a lot more D10 based games and things, so I think you can get away with going for a weird dice. Now that like Critical Role have come out with Daggerheart, right? It's a D12 based system, so maybe everyone will be moving over to that next. So that was really interesting. The tanks are huge because the infantry are like 18mm, but the tanks are just massive. Like they're not kind of true scale, they're fucking huge vehicles. And one of the interesting mechanics of it was whenever you fire like artillery, you put blast markers down and the artillery continues to fire throughout the game. So you have to like avoid it. So it's all about trying to tease out reactions from your opponent. It's an alternating activations game, but your opponent can react when you do things. They can shoot at you whenever you do things. So you're trying to tease out reactions, force them to move. It's a game of maneuverability. Very interesting. It really caught my eye. However, I will say the game, and I thought for the longest time that was going to be the game of the con for me, but at the very last day, at the end of Sunday, I played this game called Malediction. It's just had a massive Kickstarter there. They're billing themselves as the first miniatures card game. So essentially, it is, as I think the less sophisticated of those of us would call it, Warhammer mixed with Magic the Gathering. But it is more of a kind of skirmish war game where you have a deck of cards that you would build kind of like a Magic the Gathering deck, and you have a kind of a hero command like character, like a commander. They call them seekers, and you start with a bunch of resources and you draw 7 cards into your hand, and you're basically fighting over these little things. I've actually been 3D printing some of them out called husks to get these magic relics that are super powerful cards that whenever they're like objective markers. If you can contest them at the end of a match or at the end of a round, you can pick up the super relic that's in it. But you essentially are moving about this kind of 2x2 map or 2.5 by 2.5, which I thought was a weird size. summoning creatures, either in base contact with one of your characters or in your kind of deployment zone, which is in a corner. And you can cast spells with your deck. You know, it's kind of like Magic, where, say, there's a whole faction that are wizards and they're kind of based around trying to burn down the opponent. And they, you basically throw down spells from your deck, but your deck also has your creatures in it. So you're going to have like a bunch of your miniatures beside you. And then you're going to summon them with cards. So you're going to place them into play. I thought it was really fun. And it was really enjoyable. The demo experience was awesome. I got to play the kind of human faction that are super defensive, like lots of holy light, lots of healing light. And it felt very mechanically rich, but I took it home with me. And it was the game that I spent all yesterday just playing more games of it, just having a blast. They're really fast games. They're like 30 minutes, 35 minutes to an hour, maybe, if it goes really, really long. And it's just a lot of fun. The cards really work. This is like the game, I think, that we've all thought of, right? How can we do, anyone who's a card gamer and a miniature gamer like I am, are like, how can I just combine these two? And it always felt really clunky. I think they've managed to synthesize it really well together. Really, really well together. And they've made it possible to play because the miniatures are all downloadable. So they're not you don't have to buy a bunch of miniatures. It's not like super expensive to like, I've got like 3 footmen and a bunch of crossbowmen in my deck. So I'm going to have to buy like all these packs of resin or metal miniatures to like be able to take with me. You get a code. You just get a code. When you buy the deck of cards, you get a code that has all the miniatures like as 3D printing files. So really innovative, kind of, it really relies on that business model, I think, right now. That was a really interesting game. A ton of variability because you just never know what you're going to draw in the game. So it means that you bring your full like deck of worth of miniatures to the side, but you never know what you're going to actually get to play with, right? And that's super interesting. And it means that I keep on wanting to play it more. I'm like, okay, that kind of went wrong for me, or that went really well, but what happens if I change my deck this way? What happens if I draw this? So every match kind of feels super different. That is a game that has really wormed its way into me in a very, very pleasant way.
And what was it called again, Discourse?
Malediction. And
Malediction.
I'm not ashamed to say that whenever I first heard the name Malediction, I thought it sounded a bit generic. But actually, and so that worried me because it's like a Kickstarter. How many times have you heard like these massive claims of like, oh, it's going to be the first miniatures card game. We're going to sell you loads of these faction boxes. It's going to be, it's called Malediction. It's in this kind of generic-y sort of high fancy world. I was like, okay, there's going to be a Kickstarter that comes and goes. But I think it's actually really got legs. I think it's really mechanically rich. Absolutely joy to play, at least from my kind of first impressions of it. Tons of fun. And of course, I did get to see Trench Crusade. That was really awesome. I think that this year was kind of like, I think next year will be Trench Crusades like a year at UKG, because this year they didn't really have any miniatures to sell because all the miniatures are still being sent out to backers, right? But next year, I think whenever there's an actual product to really buy, because I think it was just t-shirt and like posters and stuff right now. Next year when there's miniatures, like it was buzzing, like the stall. It really was buzzing. Trench Crusade has been like a massive sleeper hit. I'm pretty sure everybody has heard about it by now, but if not, it's a kind of World War I kind of weird world war where the forces of hell are fighting against the forces of the church, who may or may not be backed by God.
We have somebody that's looking at that, don't we?
Yeah, we're gonna hold fire on Trench Crusade because otherwise we might not get through everyone.
Sure,
I think Trench Crusade deserves its own. When I get a reply from them, I know how I feel about them as a company.
If they send you a product or not.
Because Mira can talk about Trench Crusade. I think we can.
Sounds great.
I think we should do another show on Trench Crusade.
Yeah,
definitely.
And
I think you're absolutely right. So before I move to the next thing, the other big takeaway from the show. I mean, I actually stopped at a stall and pointed to James because he was cameraman and said, "Get a photo of that." If there was a theme for me, and although none of the games that I just mentioned were, there was loads and loads of solo games this time. There was a lot of solitaire play, not games with the solitaire mode, but games built for single players with miniatures, which was interesting to see. I mean, so often people like playing games and I can't get anyone to play this. There was loads of stuff there. If you're a single player gamer, you might want to go next year because there was bloody loads of it. And a lot of it you're just not going to see in hobby shops, so you're not going to know it's out there. I think the thing.
It was COVID, right? So COVID happened. Everybody realized that they needed to be able to play with themselves, and so they now all the designs of those games are all coming out. They're all bursting free, so now we can all play with ourselves. It's brilliant.
Which was the 5th interview that we did as well, which was a War of the Worlds single-player card game. So that,
Oh yeah, I forgot to mention him, didn't I? Yeah, that was really good as well. All those that I mentioned, we did get interviews of. I think I can clean up the audio. I downloaded it all. Some of the audio is a bit iffy because of the background, but I'm trying to clean it up. Right, shall we go for someone who had quite a different experience? Then let's have Dwane.
Hello, what's the crack? Myself and Lorcan had a very similar experience, I would say. We were over in Hall 4, and there were ticketed events that were run. So there was games of Alpha Strike that were being run. The ACES system, which is the new sort of, funny enough, allows you to solo play system, Alpha Strike. So there's various behavioral decks that you can you use for the Op 4 and a commander. And as you play through whatever scenario you're playing through, the commander's his orders will change depending on, if you're winning against them, or, if you've gotten into the rear arcs or you're outmaneuvering them. The commander's orders behavior will change, which will then change depending on each individual unit's behavioral deck as well. So there was aces. We had some Leviathans as well, which was a good bit of crack. We had a good few games going. There was a draft tournament for Alpha Strike as well that was being run by the demo agents. So it was like people bought in, they got 3 Savage boxes, they open them all, they pick one, they pass. It's like a very similar format to Collectible Card Gamers, but it's with blind boxes of Battletech stuff. So there was all sorts, vehicles, mechs, a mix of many things. Myself personally, me missus is absolutely mad for Ticket to Ride, so I ended up buying a load of Ticket to Ride expansions and different Ticket to Ride board games. My Saturday night was spent learning one of the new game, the Lord of the Rings, the Fate of the Fellowship. Kaiser, you wouldn't like it. Apparently it's designed by the guy who did Pandemic, so it's very similar in that regard. But I saw like a board game with a shed load of Nazgul on it, and I was like, what's this? So I spent until the wee hours in the Hilton, which apparently there's gamers going all through the night. So I was there until about 3:15 learning how to play this game. Again, sadly, I learned about this on the Saturday. So by the time Sunday rolled around, they were well sold out. They were well sold out. We hit up the Bandai stall a couple of times because they also have a miniatures game that also has a card game components. There's there were Zaku's. So I got a couple of them for my friend here in Ireland, because he absolutely loves Zaku's. He got to spread the Zaku love. I've already got way too many mechs, so I don't need any more miniatures. And yeah, that was we were mainly in Hall 4. It was quieter than previous years. Usually we have a retail store with Catalyst, and we do demo games. Like last year, we were absolutely packed to the hilt. This year was a bit different for us. And then next year, there's going to be a retail stand again. So we'll do the demo agents aspect of things. And I've just got confirmation. We will be running, myself and Lorcan will be running a Battletech Open tournament at next year's Expo using Total Warfare, so classic Battletech. You'll get to see that format or enjoy it if you get a ticket for it.
Yes. Okay. Just because it's on topic, then let's hear from Lorcan.
Yeah. So, like Dwane said, himself and myself were both part of the Catalyst demo team over in the corner Hall 4. We were running ticketed events. Drafted for War was huge, completely sold out. Went down really well. I absolutely want to play in an event. It looks like so much fun. Like Dwane said, you're getting the random packs of minis, and then you've got to figure out how you're going to build your force. And in each case, one of the packs you got to open was a unique figure, like a unique character, and you could use their special abilities in the game if you paid the points for them. And I thought that was a really nice little switch as well. So yeah, I didn't get a huge amount of time to wander around the con. hit up TT Combat on Friday, had a look at the stuff and managed to refrain from buying anything. The Bandai stand, I was there a lot because you could queue up and then build the little miniatures. So I've got them here, actually. So this is one of the guys that they were giving away as freebies. You had to build at the stand and put a little bit of paint on it. So I just did the iconic little mono eye in each case. I went back multiple times to get the 3 different guys. And what's happening is there's a cards game. I didn't get a chance to play the demo, but I did manage to blag a demo deck from them as well. So they're releasing the trading card game soon over here, and it's coming in pre-generated decks, and you can either just get the cards or you can get the cards with 3 themed Gundam minis that are linked up to the deck. So the 3 guys I showed you there come with one of the decks. Then there's like 3 other pre-gen theme ones that are going to be coming out, each with a different set of 3 minis. These guys are basically like shrunk down versions of the actual big high grade Gundam kits. Like just looking at them, you can, like, if you're familiar with the Gundam kits as I am, you can see like where they're taking like the same kind of design cues and stuff. And I think they're really nice. Like they go together really quickly. They're all press fit. They're all keyed, so they only go together one way. But you can see the poses are quite nice and dynamic. The detail is gorgeous. You know, Bandai are like some of the best injection molding people in the world, and they're really putting their expertise into this. The mini game, they're doing a miniatures game as well, which is going to be hex based because, you know, hexagons are bestagons. I think it's going to be the same minis, just on different bases. Like the minis are, you can see, it's just a little peg that connects them to the base. And the hex bases seem to have like a whole pile of different points where you can peg them in on there. So I'm guessing it's going to be the same figures. So yeah, I'm excited to check this out. Being a big fan of mech games in general, being a big fan of Gundam in general, they're really the only people I got a chance to actually go and see. Like I said a couple of weeks ago, I wanted to go find that 3D printer that does color resin minis. Didn't even try looking for it this year. I was very disorganized in anything except the games I was running and figuring out how to get back to the Bandai booth and blag another Zaku.
Yeah, it was a haul bigger this year.
Yeah,
in the last, although last year it went up to Hall 4. Hall 4 was just gaming last year. It didn't have any stalls in it or anything, and it was 3, wasn't it? It was 3 last year, and the third one was just gaming. Whereas this time there was 4 halls, and that 4th one, although it had gaming in, it also had some stalls in it.
Yeah, Hall 3A.
Yeah.
I saw they mentioned that actually it was bigger than Gen Con this year.
Right.
I can believe it.
It was.
My understanding is that Hall. Sorry. Yeah. No, my understanding was the Hall 1 was booked for something else, and they then cancelled. So Expo took it over, and that's where they did like getting your lanyards and the bring and buy. That was all just Hall 1. And then Hall 2 and 3 were what Hall 1 and 2 usually are, and Hall 4 was what Hall 3 usually is.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, I definitely, it felt more crowded. Like Saturday was the main day I got to have a wander around. I met up with a friend of mine, and we just strolled and chatted and kind of like oohed and ahed at a couple of things, but nothing kind of serious. And then like it definitely seemed more packed. And then the only thing I bought was Star Trek Star Realms, which is a lot of fun.
The minis, those Gundam minis you mentioned, Bandai, sorry, they are just cosmetic. You don't actually use them in the card game, no?
No. They're literally like, you can buy the deck on its own, or you can buy the deck with the minis if you want the minis, and who wouldn't? They're great.
Right.
That's incredible, Mira. That's so good.
I am no word of a lie. I like Wesley Crusher. I don't get the hate for him. I always liked him as a kid. I was probably the right age.
You were a child when it was on, as opposed to an adult.
This has been my longest relationship, not with this plate, but Will Rita, aka Wesley Crusher, since I was 11. So that's 30-something years. Me and him, faithful as ever.
Go
And
on,
you go,
Mira.
"Yeah."
You can go next. You forced yourself. You went for a
Oh,
little wander just to get everyone's attention while someone else was talking.
I went to get this to show everybody. So this is the pass that we get, and I just thought the dragon was really cute this year. And here's a little cute tip: you can put all your stuff in the back. No one's mentioned the best game, which is that they have people dressed up as various resources from Settlers of Catan, and you get to pick a each one will give you a different badge, and you swap the badges, and then you get a special badge. Did anybody else play that game?
I did not know. I didn't know what was going on, Mira.
Didn't even know.
Well,
I
look out for
thought
them
it was happening, but couldn't join in.
next year. Look out for them. They wear red cloaks and have a brick on their head generally. So I was working for Game Therapy UK, which is an amazing charity, and basically we really want to promote the therapeutic effects of gaming, and we set up games across the country. Kaiser helps out with that. So it was a really lovely stand. I was there Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. To our left, we had Mammoth Factory Games. I don't know if you've heard about this company, but it had loads of really beautiful minis, and every month they release an adventure and loads of STLs, and all the people on that store were lovely. And then to the other side of us, we had Red Mug Games, who have got a new role-playing game called Haunted Heist. And it was amazing when the Ghostbuster cosplayers came and did Ghostbusters next to their stand. There were some brilliant cosplayers. There was a John Pertwee who was 6'7", who was quite alarming. I saw Colin Baker with the crunchiest curly wig ever. Daleks. I saw Angron, Horus, Orcs. That was a big part of my. That's a big part of my convention.
They were fighting Uruk-hai, I think, rather than just orcs, weren't they?
Oh, I don't like to label, as you know. So, and then I stayed with my friends who run a company called Black Armada Games, and they were selling a really exciting game called Lovecraft-esque 2, and they had this fantastic stand with tentacles and everything. So that was really lovely. But it was just it was my favorite con experience for a really long time. Loads of people coming up and chatting, and it just felt really, really friendly. And guess what? Guess what, guys? Okay, I'll tell you. I got to go to an industry event, and it was organized by Angeli, that many of you may know as an online painter who's just absolutely fabulous. She now works for My Mini Factory. And so they had a shindig held in a hotel in the evening. And I thought, blimey, crikey, I've really done it here. But, I mean, that just shows that what a sheltered life I've led, really. And I went there with all the Trench Crusade team, because I'm lucky enough to be editing on the most horrible project I've ever worked on. I thought I did well getting through Fulgrim in the Horus Heresy, and now I'm just prepared.
Not a lot of unicorns.
I'm physically, emotionally scarred, changed. I'm just a terror. I'm going to hell now because I'm editing this game. But they were fantastic, and I did moan to Thomas Pirinen, who's the writer lead on the project, about how he'd made me go home and work after Saturday night because we had some urgent edits. So he did this thing where he pummeled my shoulders. I don't think I have any bone left in my shoulders. And then he said, "How's that?" And I was like, "Well, yeah, I'm still a bit stiff." At which point he cracked my neck. And I thought this man could have killed me with his bare hands because he has previously served. Thank God he didn't kill me, so I could be here with you all tonight. But this is a Finnish mountaineer army person type, accoutrement, which I thought I'd wear because I know it's all about, army stuff on this channel. But yeah, I wish I'd seen more of your faces and known you then. But I did see Nick and I did see Kaiser. But yeah, it was really lovely.
Yeah, it's one of the things about the show is so massive. There's several people tell you that they were there on the days you were there, and you just didn't see them. If you hang around in that little smoking plaza long enough, you'll definitely see me at the expo. That's at least once an hour. I'm there for 10 minutes.
I thought you were on the vapes. I'm disappointed to see you've gone back to the flammable backy.
Well, I've told you before, hand rolled on the sweaty thighs of Javanese virgins. I've got to keep those girls in work.
Jesus. Do you not prefer a nice melon tropical in ice bubblegum cooler? That would be much more social.
You think that I would go for that?
I think it'd be much more socially acceptable and less offensive for one.
Well, definitely.
But,
I like being offensive. I work at it. Anyway, thank you, Mira. Let's hear from Nick then.
Hi. See, I got my cue that time.
Yeah, well done.
So I have a list of loved and didn't loved, but I also have a list of favorite stands. Is that okay to try and speed run my way through all of that?
Go for it.
Go.
Yeah, we'll see. Okay. Getting to the NEC is one of the best experiences in the universe for any convention. It is one of the handiest places to get to. If you arrive into that airport 90 seconds on a free shuttle, you're in the NEC. It's just remarkable. I hope they never move. The scale, the spectrum of content types this year felt really strong. There was a lot of space for a lot of new exhibitors, a lot of new crafters, and that was just... really, really good. It could easily have found itself in just a board gaming space, but it's really diversified. It was lovely to meet some exceptional crafters like House of Banshee, Dice of the Seeker. These are people who are just making their own thing and doing a really beautiful job. In previous expos, they were kind of along the edges of the halls, and there seemed to be some dead zones in previous expos that didn't have an effect this year. Whatever way the people flow worked, it like Dice or House of the Banshee said they almost ran out of their top product on the Friday, and they were scrambling on Saturday morning. And that was a story I heard repeated across a few stands. So that was really cool. But yeah, 40,000 they broke. So that's the first for UK Games Expo. 40,000 unique visitors. So that's individual humans. I think they went up into the 70,000s for actual people going through the doors through the days. So yeah, I think that puts them second in the world now. So pretty sweet. Good to meet old friends. Make lots of new ones. One of the first people I ran into was Jordan Sorcery, and he was a sweetheart and spent like 2-3 hours just hanging out and chatting and working our way around the press preview. So that was lovely. I entered the Sir Coates Masters, the painting masters. I was nervous all weekend, but I got a finalist pin for my little Monty Python foot.
Awesome.
That is it.
Incredible. I love it. Oh my God.
The little nude organist on top. Little Terry Jones's naked butt. So that was cool. And yeah, it was good to see the expansion of miniature painting there as well. We had paint and takes from Vallejo, Tooth and Coats, AK, Monument Hobbies. There's probably others that I didn't even see. And that's great to see that. And the little build-in takes are now becoming popular. I think Wayland Games started it with Gundams maybe a couple years ago, and now Bandai have come in on that as well. But a great thing to just sit down, you walk away with an entire Gundam. So fair play to Wayland Games for kicking that off. Waterstones had a carpet, which was fabulous when your feet were on fire.
Oh,
yeah. Bad Squiggle had aircon coming down right into the shop. So I found myself there about 20 times.
I was really surprised. I think, James, you mentioned it's fun. Waterstones were there. You think of them in the bookshop.
Yeah.
But obviously, they do sell board games, and they had a very, very big space right by the front, one of the halls.
Yeah, thank Warhammer's exit a few years ago for that one. It just left a massive gap, and Hachette and Waterstones just slid right in there. And they were doing serious business all day. So fair play to those two. The radio incident, I don't know if you caught that. One of the few PA announcements all weekend was someone is sitting on their radio. Could you please check your radios? Because none of us can use them.
That was my highlight.
It happened multiple times. There was multiple announcements for that.
There was someone who was lost, and that we heard from them. Could you come and find your friend Emma?
We could not hear any of the PA announcements in Hall 4. It was just like, roar, roar, roar. It's like being at a train station.
I did mention the heat, so that kind of fell into my didn't love. It was a very warm expo. There were a few lovely little cool spots like Bad Squiddo, but there were a few little Hell Gate kind of spots, like the little windowed part of Hall 2 where the press and business area was. That was just an oven all weekend. So I don't know what's going on there with their aircon systems, but it wasn't doing its job. But that was really it for bad things. Some asymmetry with the layout, so you could get a little bit confused because you'd be walking down an aisle and suddenly there's something cutting across it, and you go left around that, and you don't really know where to rejoin, or so it was a little bit odd. And I could hear people saying, "Am I in 3, 2, 4, 3A? I don't know where I am."
It felt very liminal. It felt so liminal,
Yeah.
and like the layout had changed from previous years. So my like internal like directions were all off the entire weekend. Like I
Absolutely.
wasn't able to find out where the hell I was anytime.
Like they just need more
Felt
signs on the walls, I think, for big numbers to show you where you are.
Yeah. I suspect. I don't know whether you got many people came over to the stand, kind of looking for help, Mira. But if you were like neurodivergent or not comfortable around like crowds of people, I can imagine it's awful experience.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, anyone who's hard of hearing, people who suffer, when they hear loud noises. I don't know. I mean, at Comic-Con last week, the weekend previous, Games Therapy UK were lucky enough to be able to host some quiet areas, some quiet spaces. I did hear there was like a cool down, calm down area with beanbags, but I didn't have time to explore and see that. But that's the problem with conventions. I mean, one thing I thought was really good for accessibility was the really wide corridors. So it wasn't like all squished together like some cons. And that there was enough space for 2 kind of mobile units to pass each other and Daleks. So yeah, but it's always really hard for accessibility. And thank you for the shout out, because if you are feeling a bit overwhelmed at the Game Therapy UK stand, there are normally a bunch of people there who are very caring. So yeah, we're always happy if we're not happy, but we like to help if we can in that respect.
Willing.
Yeah.
Willing.
Yeah.
Maybe not able, but willing.
Kaiser, do you have time to go through some games?
Yeah, go for it.
All right. Parable Games have just kickstarted this Sisterhood. I think it's due to come out. It's about, I'm assuming, nuns, but apparently a priest came over and said, "I want that. That looks hilarious." And they were like, "Are you sure?" And he went, and he blasted. He says, "It's fine now," and took it and went off with it.
Oh my god, he found the cheat codes. That's it.
They also had this Don't Play This Game, which is a solo RPG horror that is Legacy. You fill out your diary entries as you go, and then once you're done, you pass it on to someone, and they use your diary entries plus the story to have their journey through this horror experience. That's Parable Games. Very, very cool. Beyond Cataclysm, our micro publisher and distributor, between them and Forbidden Sands, I went a bit mad and got my Mork Ball, which is fantasy football at the end of the world, and I got my, I think they called it the Fancy Pants edition of Forbidden Sands, and then the Vault of the Mad Wizard as well. So I think they were giving those for free. Flickin' Heck from Mike Hutchinson over at Planet Smasher Games as well, which is the cutest little car flicking game. Sorry, Kaiser.
No, I was going to say then, you mentioned another game other than the Psalm game, Forbidden Psalm. Is that the same system but a different setting? The Forbidden Wizard.
They're in Morkborg, yeah. So the football one, the Mad Wizard, and Forbidden Psalm, yeah. Eat the Reich as well, which is probably one of the prettiest made books. It's got lovely sort of laminated sections, some exceptional artwork throughout. Just a really pretty thing to own, even if you never play it. And I can cut to Trench Crusade. I didn't get it until I saw it, and then I fell in love. But you'll have to have me on for another show so I can just go all gushy about it, because that is one hell of a game. It's going to take over the world next year.
Yeah, I got kids talking about it at school, and I'm like, this is not a child-friendly setting.
No, there's going to be we were discussing today where we put the warning for content on the book today, actually. Don't let your kidlets look at it.
Stick
No.
the sticker on the front of the book, you know.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
it'll be like when they had to, Prince albums or something got sold in brown
Yeah.
paper bags.
There's
These kids play Warhammer, but what they don't read the law for that either. They just look at the miniatures. So maybe they just need to make sure that you can buy the rules without the law.
Maybe we do a PG-13 version.
I don't know. I honestly, I don't think it's that bad for kids, to be honest. Like, I think it's the sort of thing that young teenagers, they eat it up. Like, everyone loves that edgy stuff when they're younger, you know. It's the sort of things that I would have loved when I was like 12 years old, 13 years old. And I don't think I was watching Freddy Krueger at it. It's all good. It'd be grand.
there was a role-playing game in the 90s called Hole, Human Occupied Landfill, which had a claimer at the start saying that the game would mess you up. And you're going to end your days diving off of the balcony of a theater during a matinee chitty chitty bang bang full of nuns with chainsaws strapped to your naked body. Have fun.
Would the Trench Crusade equivalent would the Trench Crusade equivalent be like you're going to go visit the gates of hell and see them with your own eyes?
Yeah, like make it a feature rather than a bug, like trauma guaranteed.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen Hellraiser? It's going to be like that.
Yeah.
So
yeah. And that's before you get into the fact that people maybe have their parent families maybe have a religious bent, and they're really not going to like it. So you got you got into Bricks Creek.
No,
A little bit.
So whoever at their table, she's just amazing. She was just like, I don't have any fibers. Can you buy something for a tenner? And I was like, yeah.
That's a pro salesperson.
She was just brilliant. She just had me completely walking away with arms breaking. But this thing is going to blow the socks off Salute if they bring it next year.
Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
Did you all notice people wandering around with? Do you remember in the old day? Nora Batty from Last of the Summer Wine. That she used to have a trolley on wheels. Mm-hmm. So loads of people had cool trolleys on wheels. Like, and so
pro shopper.
Yeah, one of them had made it look like a mimic from D&D. One was like a space thing. I was like, what are these things? And it's basically a granny. It's a granny shopping basket for all the games. And I thought that was brilliant because when you're like, I can't buy any more, I can't carry anything. That's the perfect solution. So shout out to the granny shopper baskets.
Magic. John, are you up for it?
Oh look, I'm glad John's got a vape. Well done, John. Everybody, let's clap, John.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know why I'm here. I went to the expo. I walked around in a circle. I bought a Terminator from Crooked Dice. What did we play?
Did you not play?
You played the Rubicon game that
Johnny Foxtrot. Johnny Foxtrot from Rubicon Models. And all I'm going to say is they should stick to the models.
Is that Oscar Mike?
Is that what it's called?
Oscar Mike. Yeah, Oscar
really
Mike. Yeah.
With that.
You didn't like it?
Oh, it might be because I'm really thick. But the sort of proprietary dice, it's a free game, but you need proprietary dice and a million counters and a million tokens and bits and bobs, and then you do some sort of low-level accountancy to figure out if you hit, and then you have to put in a request to see if you can shoot for a month's time. It's just a bit odd.
There was a lot going on. Yeah, there's a lot going on. So I played that 2 years ago, and it still hasn't come to market now. At the time, there was
mechanically rich.
It is. I think it's mechanically rich. I think it does something interesting. So yes, there's a lot going on. You're rolling a lot of dice, and you're like consulting charts. It felt very much like a historical war game, but the interesting.
a pain in the arse and not a game.
Okay, well, the interesting element to me was, so it was a Vietnam game whenever I saw it, but I see that they've transposed it over to World War II now as well. So it's Vietnam and World War II. But the interesting element to me was that it really not accurately, but it interestingly simulates the fog of war. So whenever one person shoots in that game, so it's like GIs versus Viet Cong, right? And the Viet Cong are good at like creeping through the jungle, and the GIs are got more firepower, but their morale is lower. They're more trigger happy. They're more liable to like run for it, right? And get spooked. But whenever one person shoots, everybody shoots. It goes into a shooting phase. So like the moment one person decides they're going to fire, everybody just starts shooting at each other, and you can just shoot into trees, and you don't know where the opponent is. And that element really excited me, that there's this like tension of like when someone going to break and be like, okay, I'm opening fire, as everyone kind of maneuvers to try and get their characters into the best sort of position. And that was really interesting to me. And that you couldn't really have full control of your characters as well. But I haven't played it in like 2 years because I was expecting the game to have come out by now. But it's still.
I referred to my previous comment of I'm really thick, so I like to make pew pew sounds and machine gun noises and roll maybe 6 dice and then models.
Yeah.
Show us your pew pew sound.
Many videos.
I think you're right, Johnny. It is. There's a lot going on. Like it was a bit much.
It has an audience for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I looked at it, and the guy, and I was like, nah. I literally raised my hand in front of the guy while he was talking to me, and James was there. I was just like,
mate. I was looking at the collection of tables which have the dice on, which have different colours for each side. They have different colours for each side, and they have a red side and a green side, and I'm red-green colorblind, so I went, I'm never playing this game. I can't understand this game.
Yes, see, accessibility matters.
Yeah, it does. It really, really does.
I already wasn't going to play the game because there was an A4 sheet full of text, which was just about rolling the dice. I'm okay, thank you.
It was rather
to understand what the dice have rolled are. I'm not interested in your game. I'm sorry. I don't mind the proprietary dice as long as it's got a picture of a sword on it, and that means I've hit something. Okay,
so
I'm okay with that.
Maybe that's it. Maybe I'm Kaiser biased now. I'm so used to playing him that everything has to be done within an hour and a minimum of dice, no proprietary equipment.
Yeah.
Well, how about on the other side of that?
Games.
Johnny, don't apologize for your preferences. You're strong, you're loved, and you're one of us.
Hey.
Bless you. Thank you. Yeah, I tried to find Catalyst games, but they weren't there.
Well, we weren't put down on the map. It was like Hall 4, ZZ, and the amount of people that came over there were like, "You guys are so hard to find. What's going on?" It was just, I don't know what happened. It was.
Our events were listed in the miniatures games tournament section of the main program with no locations.
Never would have found that.
Yeah, and we weren't on the map. Like you could see that our section was on the map, but there was nothing listing saying this is where the Catalyst demo team is.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah.
So between that and not having a retail / demo stall in the main area, we have relatively little footfall, which, the fact that we, because we were doing ticketed events and most of them sold out or were close to sold out before the event began, it didn't matter that much. People still found us. But, if we have both things going next year, I think it'll be a lot better. You'll have people like doing a demo in the booth and you go, if you want to play some more, go over to section 4ZZ or whatever and go there.
Yeah. James. Sorry, John was just showing something. I just cut him off. What were you watching?
No,
John?
that's a little bonus. No, that was just for anyone that was looking.
Yeah, but they didn't see it because I just changed the shot.
Sorry, stop the press. Bronze Age Caveman has just written, "Hello, I'm here because I'm a Discourse junkie and I have a giant, enormous crush on her."
There you go. There you go.
Well, that's why I'm here. I've got a giant, enormous crush on the Kaiser. So, it's like a Russian doll thing going on now.
Oh, we're in soap opera territory.
Yeah.
Come on, hush, hush. It's James's turn.
What am I talking about? Tell me what
your experience of the
Conflict
Expo.
47.
My experience of the Expo. So my experience of the Expo was similar to yours at first. So we did the 5 interviews. I had a great time. Everybody that we met was really lovely. I think we lucked out a little bit in that a lot of the stalls that we went to were the really like aesthetic stalls, which was completely unintentional.
Yes, and we hadn't seen those
gorgeous.
stalls.
No, we hadn't seen the stalls. We just met them the night before when there were some people on a table. We were like, cool game. And it turns out the people who had the cool game or the cool product also like to build big, cool things. So that was really nice. One of the things that really took me that we didn't do an interview for was Doom Song, which is an RPG system. And I'll be honest, I'm sorry, people from Caesar Games or Caesar Inc., I think it was. I didn't get into it because of your game. It's because it's absolutely a gorgeous book. Just lovely art through and through. And it was one of those things where
that page you were just on there, can you show that again? Because they just sold me on that one. The one god that's on that page that's dead has no color. It was the one with all of the gods displayed.
Yeah.
So
I'll never find it again. This is like
they have this like a watercolor effect behind each of the things they're introducing, but Joy is dead, and it has no color on that page of gods. It's a beautiful book. Sorry to interrupt you.
No, that's fine. It is an
Peter Murphy.
Absolutely gorgeous book. So yeah, I will flick through that at my own amusement. It was nice to see lots of different independent people. There was a lot of like you said, there was a lot of solo gaming this year, which was a bit unexpected. But I think something else I noticed was that 2 foot by 2 foot tables seems to be having a bit of a moment at the moment. Like smaller skirmish games, which is a lot more accessible because that whole thing fits on your dining room table. So I'm looking forward to playing some smaller skirmish games like a Trench Crusade or like a Forbidden Psalm that we'll have a go at.
Well, Trench Crusade, I think, is a 4x4, so it's actually surprisingly big right now compared to a lot of skirmish games are really, really like. I feel like table size has been getting smaller and smaller over the last 4 years. Like just since COVID, it's like increasingly trying to fit onto coffee tables.
You can play Trench Crusade on your dining room table.
I can't see why not. I think it does suggest a range between a 3x3 and a 4x4. So I think that's probably leaning towards
it. We're gonna just before we go. So the probably the worst bit about it. So in the past, I've often quite burnt out at cons because we get quite busy. We've done a really good job. Although James hasn't said much about it, he was basically my PA for the weekend, which freed up a lot of my headspace. Was really good for doing the interviews because normally you're running around chasing people to do the interviews, then you're really lively in the interviews, and it's just hectic and it frazzes my brain. So James took a lot of the mental energy away from that, which was good. So we actually were fairly relaxed in the afternoon, but it was still pretty tired. But there was a few things I came across at the very end that I wish I'd spent more time on, and of those, the biggest one was Tunnels and Trolls. Are any of you old enough to remember Tunnels and Trolls?
Yep.
I've been told a lot about it. I've been told a lot about it.
Nick? So Tunnels and Trolls is a very, very old RPG, and I just have terribly fond memories of it because it was a full RPG for which they made solo adventures in the style of adventure game books. But it was a full RPG system with a magic. It wasn't just like you had a skill and a stamina stat. It was a full system. It did run off a monster rating, I suppose, but it's being remade, which was really interesting to see. And they're very early in the development, and they had people rolling up characters at their table. It was just sort of a little touch of nostalgia. And the other big one was the fact that I hadn't really realized that I really should have spoken to the Trench Crusade guys while I was there. It was just kind of while I was having a beer with Discourse. And what's your camera guy called, Discourse?
Glenn. You brought me the last time. He's a lovely man. Me and John and James were having a beer with Discourse and Glenn and John's nephew. And while they were talking a bit about Trench Crusade some more, and James was explaining it a little bit to me, I was like, I should go back in there and talk to those guys. I'm done now. So Mira, as someone who's obviously read more that is printed than probably most, and read it certainly more than once, why don't you tell, for anyone that doesn't know, tell them what Trench Crusade is and how it has damaged, it's poisoned your unicorn.
Squeezing my unicorn. Yeah, so basically Trench Crusade is, what if World War One happened and Satan decided to join in? So some dodgy crusaders, some dodgy Templars up to no good, broke a seal, and now all kinds of crazed, profane, blasphemous, bloody, grotesque, torturous, rapine creatures and hellions are involved in, you know, big battles, skirmishes with various kind of goodies who are on the side of God. And, you know, you can pick your warriors from the Duke, you know, who are loyal to the Duke of Antioch, or you can go to the Iron Sultanate, or you can be, you know, so it's this fantastic, horrible fantasy global affair. And when I joined the team, it was a tiny ragtag group of a few people with this concept, you know, all based around the artwork by Mike Francina, who is a visionary and terrifying.
Mm-hmm.
When I met him, I was happened to be in California, where he lives for work, and we went out for lunch. We went to this really cute Japanese mall. We looked at Sanrio. We did a bit of shopping. We had some sushi. I was just looking at this lovely, kind bear of a man, thinking, how the F does this stuff come out of your brain? So it's very twisted. And because a lot of the inspirations from the artwork, the book is glorious. It's filled with gorgeous, grotesque artwork. And Thomas, who is kind of, you know, the main writer, is very close friends with John Blanche. And, you know, we've had that blessing. So from that very modest beginning, I remember I went up to Nottingham with my laptop to try and pitch for this job. And, you know, I'd asked all my friends, Black Library authors, for tips on how to pitch. And I got quite quickly, I was told, okay, you're doing this, you're editing the book. And then fast forward, you know, a year later, and it's £6 million on Kickstarter, and it's absolutely terrifying. I mean, I could potentially ruin something that so many people love already. But there was even one store which was called, I can't remember, Rogue Initiative or something, and they were creating Trench Crusade terrain, you know, 3D printing. And by the end of the con, they'd come and spent time playing the game. They talked to the creators. They're changing the name of their company to the Trench Twins. So it's absolutely terrifying. But I'm so excited and happy because the team are some of the loveliest humans I know, really supportive, caring. And I think they're already, you know, there's so much out there already. So much content has been gifted and given away for free. You know, the playtest went out there, and, you know, people are already playing tournaments across the world. So, yeah, I mean, even talking about it feels a bit dreamlike and surreal. But I think it's definitely a high point in my life. Can't really quite believe I'm here.
There you go. Quite a big project. And you've been keeping quiet about it for a year.
Yeah, well, they keep saying to me, you need to sign an NDA, Mira. I'm like, trust me. They say that, and then I hear a really senior member of the team has said something at an industry event, and I'm like,
I know those feels.
It's hard keeping stuff quiet. There was one thing that we were working on. I'm sorry, my mind is tired. So you've got this massive battleship, the Britannia, and it's just a fantastic illustration. You know, I urge you all to Google it. And there was so much excitement before we released that, because we knew that image would make people go, well, I didn't. Everyone else was like, this is going to make people go absolutely batshit. And the minute that dropped, because I think every week we do a little lore drop, everyone went nuts. And I was like, what is happening? So being on, you know, I love interviewing people to find out where the muse comes from and what's going on in their brain. Being around people who just churn this out like this. And Thomas has worked at Games Workshop, so he knows how to change the rules, tweak the rules. And Mike will just, you know, throw out another bit of artwork. I'm closer to the source. I'm seeing the process, but I still can't find it out. But that's my life's quest, really. Yeah, being around creative people and cheerleading them and supporting them and trying to figure out where that muse comes from.
Yeah. Well, we clearly need to do something on Trench Crusade. I mean, I'm obviously the last person in the world to know about it. It seems. I don't really do know. I got really excited about seeing the game from the 70s was being remade, and then it's not that good a game either, to be honest. But it's big nostalgia here for me. All right. Well, that I guess that's time. It's been great having you all on. It's the highlight of, it's a bit corny to say, but the highlight of shows like this for me though is meeting up with people that you only ever see at these kind of cons. I see more of Mira because I do the GT UK stuff, so I see it at Comic-Con and things like that. But most of these people, Dwane, I've seen twice in my life. Both of them were at UK Games Expo.
Thank you for bringing lovely people together, because community is so important. And my anxiety, literally, I didn't have anxiety for 4 days at Games Expo, and things like this really lift the anxiety. So thank you for bringing lovely people together.
They're your people, Mira. That's what that is all about. So yeah, I think we'll give it up there. So just to remind people, then quickly going around, where can people find you on sort of socials if they want to check out the rest of your content? Nick.
Yeah, on YouTube, just search for Gray Primer, GRAY Primer, Nick from Gray Primer on Instagram. And I irregularly post large videos about very long builds and dioramas.
Magic. Discourse, where can they find you?
Discourse minis for wargaming news and commentary and opinion pieces, and Dungeons and Discourse for RPG news and opinion pieces and commentary on just all the latest stuff. Yeah, simple.
There we go. Dwane.
What's the crack? You can find me on Plastic Craic Gaming, the YouTube channel, and we also run BattleTech Ireland, the Facebook page, and we have a Discord as well. If you want to play BattleTech in Ireland, we run every 10 days in the Clonsilla, which is in Dublin 5.
Magic.
Dublin 15.
Mira.
So I'm just Mira Manga. If you Google me, things will pop up. But if you have spare time and you don't mind following some socials, please look up Game Therapy UK. It's a fantastic charity, and any support, even if you can give us a follow and just amplify, that would be lovely. Thanks, everyone.
Magic. Lorcan, you don't do socials, do you? Or do
I don't do social media. I don't have a Twitter. I don't have a Blue Sky. I don't have a Facebook. You can generally find me mooching around on the official BattleTech forums or the Catalyst Game Labs Discord. You can find my writing on a semi-regular basis in Shrapnel, the official BattleTech magazine.
Magic. There you go. So, Mira, you need to get him on. He writes for BattleTech.
I do.
I mean, I'm going to try and get everyone on. It's happening. I won't be stalking like Caveman is of Discord.
Right.
I'll be outside your windows.
Yes. Was Caveman the one said he would love to have gone for a beer with Discourse? You got a real fanboy there. All right.
I feel like there might be a wedding.
Oh, thanks for watching, everyone. Bye-bye.
Eyes only for Kaiser. Bye.